In this talk, I would like to present some ideas about compassion, some orientation that I hope prove helpful in the exercises on this website and self-compassion exercises in general. Compassion is a huge topic. It's profound, and teachings are extensive in all the contemplative traditions and religions that provide really deep and ongoing understandings of compassion. But here, what we want to do is to give a general orientation, what it is and what it isn't, and how it's similar or different from other feelings of concern for other people. And so that as an introduction to the exercises, will help you understand how the exercises work and the context in which they can help. So first thing to understand is that there's three modes of compassion, modes, M-O-D-E-S. And first mode is, we are familiar with, is compassion toward other people. Second is compassion from others toward us. And the third is compassion toward ourselves. And normally, well, when we take a look at the general situation, we'll find that where we're most lacking is compassion toward ourselves. We tend to be very hard on ourselves, and that produces problems. We'll be talking more about that a little bit later. And I also want to make a distinction between other forms of caring for others that are in the same group in terms of caring for others, group of words and actions and responses, but are quite different. Starting with, in a sort of graduated way, starting with sympathy. Sympathy is the least engaged. It's having, realizing, let's say, tragedy is far off. We read a headline in another country and we feel sorry for those people of what they might be going through. But it doesn't really upset our life per se, and we find it engaging for a moment. And it has a mild register on our compassion meter. So sympathy also sometimes shows up as pity for them, pity for us. Second is empathy, and empathy oftentimes, well, for a long time, has been used synonymously with compassion, but it is not. It's quite different. The empathy is the ability or the state of being in empathetic resonance or in emotional resonance with the other person. The other person's feeling dejected. We feel dejected. The other person is feeling a sense of uselessness. We feel that sense of uselessness. So uselessness, or they're worried about a loved one in the hospital. We feel the same feeling. The issue with empathy is that that's as far as it goes. We're in this resonance with the other person's emotional state, experiencing virtually the same thing. And now what happens is, though, that we have two people in the soup, two people in the same place, and without much in the way of solution or direction about how to resolve it. And the studies have shown that this is not associated with positive outcomes. So let's talk about the next step, which is loving kindness. Loving kindness is out of a sense of caring. We treat somebody well, even though by the looks of it, they may not deserve it. Whether it's somebody on the street who's homeless, or a friend of ours we don't even like. Let's say a family member who we don't even like, but they were in a car accident and they're in the hospital. We'll treat them with kindness. And loving kindness is a wonderful way to begin to stimulate our internal processes of compassion. So it's right in between empathy and compassion. There's a resonance with the other person's emotional state, and then there's some change of behavior as a result in how we relate to another person or to ourselves. And lastly, compassion. Compassion is a strong sympathetic resonance, emotional resonance with the emotional state of another person. And this is the big difference. And a strong desire and commitment to do something about it. This makes compassion distinctly different from all other forms of caring that we know about, that we can identify, in that it gets us going. It's a motivational, it motivates us to actually do something about whatever's going on. In 2017, the American Psychological Association, the APA, does a review of stress in America every year. And in 2017, they said it was the highest it's ever been. 65% of the respondents said they were in a state of high stress. And if you want more information about this, you can just type in 2000, the stress in America 2017, it'll come right up. But what they found was, I think the most significant part of that research study is that 51% of the respondents decided as a result of their stress about the circumstances in our country and in their lives to do something about it, to write a check or to volunteer or to support an organization that's helping out in areas that they feel are most important, but they took action. And this is a very important part of to understand about compassion, because one of the things we have today, particularly with the difficulties we face all around us, is a sense we really can't do anything about it. And that sense of helplessness, psychologically speaking, is not a good idea. So we'll be talking more about this too, but psychologically it's very important. We're feeling a sense of helplessness as a result of frustrated compassion about not being able to help. Then we do need to do something about that, whatever it may be, whatever we can. So one of the things that occurs with compassion exercises is as soon as we start doing compassion exercises, it brings up everything that's in the way. Now, this is natural and normal. This is what's taught in all the contemplative traditions, that when we start meditating, we start doing compassion exercises, the things that are in the way, they're impediments, they come up, which is kind of makes sense. That if we want to pave a road, we bought a big piece of land, we want to pave a road to the main road, there's a lot of obstacles. There's trees and rocks and creeks and things in the way that we have to get out of the way in order to be able to create a road from where we're building out to the main road. That's just the way it works. So a lot of people, oftentimes when people are starting to do these exercises, the obstacles show up and they say, oh, this is terrible. It's hopeless. I can't do this. No, it's not. That's the natural process. And so we continue to apply the meditation or the self-compassion, whatever it is, because even though it's bringing that up, it is the process of resolution of whatever arises. And that's how we make progress. So several things I want to mention about compassion. We think it's being pity for another person. No, that goes back to sympathy. That is not compassion. And pitying is, I won't go into this too much, but it's kind of a self-centered response. I'm better off than they are, and they're terrible, and I don't want to be that way. And there's all this complex sort of self is all wrapped up in it. So pitying somebody doesn't really do them any good or us any good. It's wimpy. In other words, it's not, it makes wimps out of us. Instead of strong action, we get, oh, well, you know. I can be compassionate, I feel sorry for them or whatever, and it relieves us of responsibility. But no, actually, compassion is quite powerful, and doesn't take much to take a look at our history books and see where there were times where a group of people stood up for compassion, stood in compassion, and they were unmovable. So third is that it's selfish. That that I'm just giving compassion to myself, and I shouldn't be doing that because other people are suffering, or whatever those thoughts may be about self-compassion. And absolutely not. Actually, compassion, I'll say this will be said more than once in many different ways. Compassion is a strength that cannot be overcome. And that's why practicing it is important, to be able to establish it to a greater degree in our own being. So, but we sometimes think it's selfish. There's a lot of people suffering in the world, and why should I be good to myself? Because I should go out and have. This is as a misconception, misconstruing the meaning of compassion. And an example is caregivers. Particularly with COVID, a lot of people were getting really burned out. Healthcare workers on the front line, and everybody was having a difficult time. And at that time, there was the concept of compassion burnout. Well, there's no such thing as compassion burnout, in the sense of that compassion is an inexhaustible resource. What gets burned out is that we get burned out. We forget to eat. Forget to take care of ourselves. We don't sleep enough. We become overly worried and concerned. We become frantic. And those things are what cause burnout. But it's not a burnout from caring to other people. It's not knowing when we need support and when we need care. We can't just sort of give and give and give and give without replenishing our own resources. So that's a really important point, because a lot of people, anyway, we ran into a lot of problems with that, particularly in COVID, and it's a general condition too. We have families caring for an ailing family member or what have you. And no, we have to know where our safety is in jeopardy and stop and replenish our own resources and give compassion to ourselves. That's why, in general, in the world of therapy and psychotherapy, every therapist has a therapist, because we need to be able to know when we need to pull back and care for ourselves. So some people feel it's self-indulgence, that I'm sort of treating myself nice and having a party while the rest of the world is falling apart. Not true at all. For the reasons I just mentioned, that sometimes we really need to stop and be compassionate toward ourselves in order to replenish our reserves and get so that we can get back into service. Another one, this is really important one, that some people think it's letting people off the hook. That somehow we have compassion toward that person. Oh, that's okay. Somebody doesn't treat us well, or family member or whatever. And we go, oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it. And when usually our inner voice is going, no, what they did was not right. And we go, oh, that's okay. Well, that's codependence. That is not compassion. And so the compassion is about accountability. And if someone's being accountable, and we're being accountable, that is the most compassionate thing to do. If someone has crossed the line, if they're willing to be accountable, then we have something to work with. If they want us to feel sorry for them, if they want us to feel, oh, but I'm really a good person. Oh, just forgive me. Well, are you willing to be accountable? If you're not willing to be accountable, I'll wait until you are. Because otherwise, people aren't really changing. So we can only change if we're really accountable. And compassion is, as an act of self-compassion, helps us be accountable to others. And when we're accountable for our actions, that's where we really grow and learn, grow and develop. I don't know where this came, well, I do know where this came from, but we tend to be in general very hard on ourselves, and we feel that the harder we are on ourselves, that's the best method for improvement, which is even on the surface doesn't make sense. It's like the old phrase, floggings will continue until morale improves. And that's the kind of negative dynamic we get into when we're really critical of ourselves. Oh, that was stupid. I can't believe you did that. That was really stupid. Aren't you any better than that? Blah, 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 blah. So how's that going to make us be a better person, aspire to and equip us to learn and grow in whatever it is we need to know so that we don't make those same mistakes again? It's terrible. It's affirming the negative view of ourselves. Now, a lot of people have achieved great things with that negative self-talk. But at some point, they're going to run out of steam and won't know what to do. And looking at compassion and looking at how we're compassion toward ourselves, that's how we grow. And like, for instance, if we have a young child learning how to ride a bike and they hit a tree in the practice, we don't say, that was stupid. Can't believe that. Can't you see that tree there? Say, oh, okay. Okay, you hit the tree. Okay, let's go. Let's get on a bike and let's see if we can avoid the tree next time. Big difference, huge difference in child rearing and relationships and compassion toward ourselves. Yeah, we may make the same mistake over and over again, and then we can finally get tired of it and say, I got to do something about this. So we deal with the issue and in therapy or figure out some way of coping with it. And we work through the issue so that we don't keep repeating the same behavior that is out of line with our core principles. So lastly, accountability is a counterpoint to shame. We'll be talking a lot about shame in various contexts, and I won't go into very much here, but the negative self-talk I was referring to is all shame-based. And accountability helps us to get out of that shame-based dynamic, because where our true nature, our innate nature, lies in accountability and being responsible for our actions, taking responsibility for our actions, and correcting whatever led to those actions and moving on. A shame keeps us stuck. I'm a terrible person. Oh, okay, I'll do better next time. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But usually we don't. It leads to perfectionism and all kinds of problems. So one of the great antidotes to shame is self-compassion. And we'll be talking more about that later, some exercises for shame and so forth. So if you feel worse after this talk, maybe some exercise in self-compassion can help with that. And we'll have a few on the website now and be adding more over time. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you continue your exploration in compassion. Thank you for listening.